Sartor Resartus, Chapter 10, title is Pure Reason. It must be now apparent enough that our professor, as above hinted, is a speculative radical, and of the very darkest tinge, acknowledging for most part in the solemnities and paraphernalia of civilized life, which we make so much of, nothing but so many cloth rags, turkey poles, and bladders with dried peas. To linger among such speculations longer than mere science requires, a discerning public can have no wish. For our purposes, the simple fact that such a naked world is possible, nay, actually exists under the clothed one, will be sufficient. Much, therefore, we omit about kings wrestling naked on the green with Carmen, and the kings being thrown, dissect them with scalpels, says Teufelsdrockh. The same viscera, tissues, livers, lights, and other life tackle are there. Examine their spiritual mechanism. The same great need, great greed, and little faculty, nay, 10 to 1, but the carman, who understands draught cattle, the rimming of wheels, something of the laws of unstable and stable equilibrium, with other branches of wagon science, and has actually put forth his hand and operated on nature, is the more cunningly gifted of the two. Whence, then, their so unspeakable difference? From clothes, much also shall we omit confusion of ranks, and Joan and my lady, and how would be everywhere, hail fellow well met, and chaos were come again. All which to any one that has fairly pictured out the grandmother idea, society in the state of nakedness, will spontaneously suggest itself. Should some skeptical individual still entertain doubts whether in a world without clothes the smallest politeness, polity, or even police could exist, let him turn to the original volume and view the boundless Ceremonian bog of Sansculottism, stretching sour and pestilential, over which we have lightly flown, where not only whole armies but whole nations might sink, if indeed the following argument, in its brief riveting emphasis, be not of itself incontrovertible and final. Are we opossums? Have we natural pouches, like the kangaroo? Or how, without clothes, could we possess the master organ, sole seat, and the true pineal gland of the body social? I mean a purse. Nevertheless, it is impossible to hate Professor Teufelsdrockh. At worst, one knows not whether to hate or to love him, for though, in looking at the fair tapestry of human life, with royal and even sacred figures, he dwells not only on the obverse alone, but here chiefly on the reverse, and indeed turns out the rough seams, tatters, and manifest thrums of the unsightly wrong side, with an almost diabolical patience and indifference, which must have sunk him to the estimation of most readers. There is that within which unspeakable distinguishes him from all other past and present sansculotists. The grand unparalleled peculiarity of Teufelsdrockh is, that with all this transcendentalism he combines a transcendentalism no less superlative, whereby if one, on the other hand, he degrades man below most animals, except those jacketed Gouda cows, he, on the other, exalts himself beyond the visible heavens, and to almost an equality with the gods. To the eye of vulgar logic, says he, what is a man? An omnivorous biped that wears breeches? To the eye of pure reason, what is he? A soul, a spirit, and divine apparition round his mysterious me, and there lies, under all those wool rags, a garment of flesh or of senses, contextured in the loom of heaven, whereby he is revealed to his like, and dwells within them in union and division, and sees fashions for himself a universe, and with azure starry spaces, and long thousand of years, deep hidden is under this strange garment, amidst sounds and colors and forms, as it were, swathed in inextricably overshrouded. Yet it is sky woven and worthy of a god. Stands he not thereby in the center of immensities and the conflicts of eternities. He feels power has been given him to know, to believe. Nay, does the spirit of love, free in its celestial primeval brightness, even here, though but for moments, look through? Well, said Saint Chrysostom, with his lips Chrysostom with his lips of gold, the true Shekinah is man. Where else is God's presence manifested? Not to our eyes only, but to our hearts, as in our fellow man. In such passages, unhappily too rare, the high Platonic mysticism of our author, which is perhaps the fundamental element of his nature, bursts forth, as it were, in full flood. And through the vapor and tarnish of what is often so perverse, so mean in his exterior environment, we seem to look into a whole inward sea of light and love, though, alas, the grim coppery clouds soon roll together again and hide it from view. Such tendency to mysticism is everywhere traceable in this man, and indeed, to attentive readers, must have been long ago apparent. Nothing that he sees but has more than a common meaning, but has two meanings. Thus, if in the highest imperial scepter of Charlemagne mantle, as well as in the poorest ox goad and gypsy blanket, he finds prose, decay, contemptibility, there is each sort of poetry also, irreverent of worth, for matter, were it never so despicable, is spirit, the manifestation of spirit. Were it never so honorable, can it be more? The thing visible, nay, the thing imagined, the thing in any way conceived is visible. What is it but garment, a clothing of the higher celestial and visible, unimaginable, formless, dark, with excess of bright? Under which point of view the following passage, so strange in purport, strange in phrase, seems characteristic enough. Quote unquote. The beginning of all wisdom is to look fixedly upon clothes, or even with armed eyesight, till thy become transparent. The philosopher, says the wisest of the sage, must station himself in the middle. How true! The philosopher is he whom the highest has descended, and the lowest has mounted up, who is the equal and kindly brother of all. Quote unquote. Shall we tremble before cloth webs and cobwebs, whether woven in arc-white looms, or by the silent arachnes that weave unrestingly in our imagination? Or, on the other hand, what is there that we cannot love, since all was created by God? Happy he who can look through the clothes of man, the woolen and fleshly and official bank paper and state paper clothes, into man himself, and discern, it may be, in this or the other dread potentate, a more or less incompetent digestive apparatus, yet also an inscrutable other venerable mystery, in the meanest tinker that sees with the eyes. For the rest, as is natural to man, he deals much in the feeling of wonder, insists on the necessity and high worth of universal wonder, which he holds to be the only reasonable temper for the denizen of a singular planet as ours. Wonder, says he, is the basis of worship. The reign of wonder is perennial, the indestructible in man. Only at certain stages, as the present, it is, for some short season, a reign of partibus infidelium. That progress of science which is to destroy wonder, and in its stead substitute mensuration and numeration, finds in favor with Teufelsdrockh, much as he otherwise venerates the two latter processes. Quote, unquote. Shall your science, exclaims he, proceed in the small chink-lighted or even oil-lighted underground workshop of logic alone, and man's mind become an arithmetical mill, where of memory is the hopper, and mere tables and signs the tangents, codifications and treatises of memory the hopper, or what you call political economy, are the meal? And what is science, which the scientific head alone, were it screwed off, and, like the doctors in Arabian tales, set to basin to keep it alive, could prosecute without shadow of a heart? But one other of the mechanical and menial handicrafts for which the scientific head, having a soul in it, is too noble an organ? I mean, thought without reverence is barren, perhaps poisonous. At best dies like cookery with the day that called it forth. Does not live like sowing in successive tilths and wider spreading harvests, bringing food and plenteous increase all time. In such wise does Teufelsdrock deal hits, harder or softer, according to ability, yet ever as we would fain persuade ourselves with charitable intent. Above all, that class of logic choppers and treble-pipe scoffers and professed enemies to wonder, who in these days so numerously and patrol as night constables about the Mechanics' Institute of Science, and cackle like true old Roman geese and goslings round their capital, on any alarm, or on none. Nay, who often, as illuminated skeptics, walk abroad in peaceable society, in full daylight, with rattle and lantern, and insist on guiding you and guiding you therewith, though the sun is shining and the street populous with mere justice-loving men. That whole class is inexpressibly wearisome to him. Here with what uncommon animation he perorates. The man who cannot wonder, who does not habitually wonder and worship, where he is president of innumerable royal societies and carried the whole Mécanique Céleste and Hegel's philosophy, and the epitome of all laboratories and observatories with their results, in his single head, is but a pair of spectacles behind which there is no eye. Let those who have eyes look through him, then he may be useful. Thou wilt have no mystery and mysticism. Walk through thy world by the sunshine of what thou callest truth, or even by hand lamp of what I call attorney logic, and explain all, account for all, or believe nothing of it. Nay, thou wilt attempt laughter. Whoso recognizes the unfathomable, all-pervading domain of mystery, which is everywhere, under our feet and among our hands, to whom the universe is an oracle and a temple, as well as kitchen and cattle stall, he shall be delirious mystic. To him thou, with sniffing charity, wilt protrusively prefer thy hand lamp, and shriek as one injured, when he kicks his foot through it. Armored Teufel, doth thou calcave, doth not thy bull gender? Thou thyself, wert thou not born, wilt thou not die? Explain me all this, or do one of two things. Retire into private places with thy foolish cackle, or, what were better, give it up and weep. Not that the reign of wonder is done, and God's world all dissembled and prosaic, but thou hitherto art a dilettante and sandfine pedant. Alright, I'm gonna add this to YouTube. Drop a file and you wanna upload. Don't mind if I do.
I like the YouTube because they play my favorite videos.